This is a video of a chat I had with Lindsay Masvaleix, who's a life coach. She's a SERPA practitioner and she works with people on their recovery from persistent pain. She has a company called Vibrant Coaching and she's absolutely inspirational in her story as both a patient and then a practitioner, and lots of other roles intertwined with that. And she tells her story here. It's fascinating to listen to. It really is inspirational, whether you are suffering from persistent pain, whether you recovered from it, or you're exploring the idea of becoming somebody who can help others recover too. So if you're interested, watch this video.
Yeah.
What I'd like to ask you about primarily is your starting point with maybe your own experience of pain, and a lot of people are interested in how they might consider making the transition to helping others in an informal way to actually come into more formal perspective. So would you be happy to share a few things around that?
Yeah, absolutely. So shall I just start from scratch? And you can stop me at any moment and I'll try not to make it too long and drawn out. So yeah, so my story is so I suffered with ongoing and persistent back pain for probably over a decade. But actually when I started looking at the SERPA approach and bodily symptoms, I actually recognized and identified that actually I'd had back pain probably just after my childhood, stomach pains and all sorts of different sorts of things. So it was quite a revelation when I went back through my timeline and looked at when it really started. But when it significantly sort of started to affect my life and reduce what I call living a typical normal active life was about 6 months after I'd had my first baby. So I bent down to put her into her crib and my back just went into seizure. It just spasmed. I fell on the floor. I had no idea what on earth was going on. I was absolutely terrified. So that's when it started. And then I used to have occasional episodes. I just called them episodes. So the pain would do this. My back would go into spasm and actually it would completely go away. I'd go back to normal life and then, oh, it's done it again. And then to the point that my back was just constantly in pain. And my movement was just so restricted and my life was it was just really boring and miserable. And you feel quite lonely when you're experiencing that constant pain because you just being the sort of person that I'm naturally quite an upbeat person and I just didn't want to keep talking about this boring element of my life, so I just sort of locked it away. And yeah, so for me it just I became quite obsessed with my symptoms. And as I said, it affected what I did and didn't do. So my comfort zone was literally sitting in a chair. Getting up out of the chair was a different matter, or getting into a chair was a different matter. But sitting still, I was okay with. Laying flat on my back in bed, I was happy to do that. But then the pain used to wake me up in the middle of the night. So transitional movements became a real issue. And then I stopped doing things like cycling. I was just walking was fine. I could walk, that was all right. But I suddenly realized that, yeah, I was doing very little. And I had young children. So it was not a great period in my life, put it that way.
And what did you believe to be the origin behind the pain?
Yeah, so I obviously, like many people in my situation, of course, I went to doctors, I went to physios, I visited osteopaths, I had acupuncture. In the end, because the pain was just really overtaking my life, and being able to live what I call normally, I did have an MRI scan. And I was told by the consultant that I had DDD, so disc degeneration. I was also told I had bulging discs. I had been given other diagnosis from physios, things like sacroiliac joint dysfunction. I basically believed that I was damaged, my back was broken, not broken, but just not right. And I was told that this is it. That's what you've got. So just off you go. Maybe do a bit of Pilates, but there's really not much we're going to be able to do for you. We might give you some injections further down the line. So I believed that there was physically something very wrong with me. And I thought I was damaged completely and it would never, ever get better.
It's a very vulnerable place to feel once you've been through the medical system and they don't have a conventional answer for you that means you can recover in their eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. It's very hopeless. It's pretty bleak. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think physically, and emotionally at this point, because you just think, oh my God. And at this point, when I was given that diagnosis, I don't think I'd even hit 40. So I was young, and I just thought, this is awful. I can't live like this with this prognosis. This is just instinctively something inside of me. A little bit of a rebel in here somewhere was just like, no, God, no, this literally can't be it. I can't, no one deserves to live with this amount of pain constantly with nothing to sort of a solution to find, if you like.
How long was that period?
That period I would say was about 3 or 4 years of being in the wilderness. So, you're given the diagnosis, but I would have such flare-ups, which were impacting my everyday living. So yeah, I would go and see physios. I just was so desperately looking for something that could just give me a minute of relief from this nagging for me. And now knowing what I know, it all makes sense. But for me, it was like a roaring in my body, like this constant, I can't even articulate it, but it was just screaming at me. By the end of the day, after work, after children, I just wanted to lay in a dark room. I had no energy. I couldn't, because I was so consumed by it. I almost just couldn't think about anything else. I was done, I was just done in.
Now that you look back, knowing what were your default patterns to approach it, to avoid it, to push through it? What were you doing?
Yeah, I instinctively, I never just stopped. I continued to work and I was commuting. So rather than cycle 15 minutes to the station, I was walking. I was happy to walk anywhere. I was walking for about 2 hours every day, so I instinctively didn't stop moving, but I was very overprotective. I had things that I was psychologically happy with. Walking, yeah, that's okay. But there were numerous movements that I just cut out of my life. I mean, if you'd have said twist your legs either way, rotate, rotate your pelvis, absolutely not. That terrified me. Bending terrified me. I had a pickup stick around the house. I was living with kids, who just chuck stuff everywhere, socks and pants and toys. And as a mum, and part of my personality traits, which I'm sure we'll get onto, I just wanted everything to be tidy. So I had this pickup stick. I looked like I was at Glastonbury, constantly just with this pickup stick. I mean, it was completely, now I look at it, insane. I had like these foam wedges when I drove because my back would always be bad when I drove. Oh, you name it, I tried it. Icing, when it flared up, I used to ice. I just was told that icing for 15 minutes and then maybe a bit of heat. So, honestly, I tried all sorts of things, gels, as I said, manual manipulation. And inside of myself, I was just constantly freaked out, really. Yeah.
What's the weirdest thing you ever attempted? What was the weirdest thing?
Well, when I was doing, well, I think putting on summer. So if we're going to put it into everyday life, putting on my summer sandals was like climbing Mount Everest. The positions that I would put my body in, because I couldn't, at the time, I didn't have the confidence just to bend over and do up my shoes, bend up, and particularly sandals, because any ladies who are out there will know, or anyone else who's wearing sandals with a little side sort of attachment, you have to twist slightly, and of course that's what I didn't want to do. So I'm putting tights on. I mean, I was happy to put my legs up in the air and stick my tights on that way, but I wouldn't bend. And I can laugh about it now, but yeah, it's crazy.
So that's where you were. And what piqued your curiosity to look somewhere else? What brought about that change, I suppose?
Yeah. So what pointed me in the direction of this work? Yeah. So I was seeing an osteopath, one of the numerous, but when I went to see her, I automatically had this sense that she was just different. She spoke about my nervous system. And at the time I was thinking, it's my back, it's not my nervous system. What's all this about the nervous system? And she was very gently trying to drip feed through some of the SERPA approach. Actually, I found out later she'd done the level 1 SERPA. So she was actually the person who pointed me in the direction of SERPA. And she just said to me, she'd lent me an amazing book, actually before that, called Explain Pain. I think it's called Explain Pain, isn't it? By Lorimer Mosley. I can never say his name. He's amazing. And that book was the first step to me understanding like how pain is created in the body and how it can become chronic and how it sort of is this vicious cycle and the fear cycle. So that already started to unlock something in me. Then she pointed me towards SERPA. I looked at the SERPA website and I immediately just went on to some of the case studies, the testimonials and videos of other people speaking. And I just sat there and I cried because I just felt like I had found something that it was me. Those people were me. I just knew instinctively there was something. It was just that intuition that, oh my God, I think I found something. And this something is the thing that's going to make a difference. And I was right. Yeah.
And so did you stay with the clinician you had, or did you explore another practitioner maybe who, I don't know, had a bit more experience in that? How did you move forward?
Yeah, so essentially I did actually do the online program, which is fantastic. It's very, very, very comprehensive. But I just felt like I still needed somebody else's guidance to take me through some of the parts of that maybe I hadn't fully explored or just needed more help with, just conceptually, or I just needed a little bit more guidance. So actually I did some work with Georgie, and for anyone here who, I'm sure most people are aware, but Georgie founded SERPA, and so I did some sessions with Georgie, and that just nudged me even further in the right direction. And it was the best thing that I ever did, the best thing I ever did. So I have no regrets.
When the ducks lined up, you kind of saw patterns and cues and behaviors, and how quickly, lots of people get too hung up, I think, on how long. I have my own ideas around this. However, what was your experience?
Well, that's a really interesting one, because you would think that I would know the day that suddenly I skipped out of my back door and I put my running shoes on and suddenly I was moving without fear. I can honestly say for me, it was a really gradual process. I think a lot of it for me was building back my confidence into everyday movements, like sticking my sandals on without second guessing. So I think if I were to say there was a time frame, realistically, probably for me, 6 to 9 months before I thought, oh my God, I am no longer thinking about my back. I'm moving and I'm not thinking about hurting myself or being damaged. Yeah, and I would really say, to be completely and honest, about this whole process, is that I still get uncomfortable sensations, I call them now, in my body from time to time. I will still get whispers of something with my back, or I also had other bits and bobs going on, like we all do, shoulder and numerous different bits and bobs. But now I am so much better equipped to calm that down really quickly, and it doesn't turn into anything. It's a whisper. It's a reminder. Have I, what self-care have I done today, or do I need to look at something, or do I just need to take my foot off the pedal?
It's interesting when you curiously notice sensations now.
Yeah.
A reminder almost of where it might be pointing you to do some work.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, as a topical question came up in the group, last night actually, and it was about, do I have to go backwards to go forwards? You know, essentially. Now
Yeah,
I like behaviour change. I'm a physio by trade, if you like. So
yeah,
it's not my bag,
yeah.
just where I'm positioned. However, I recognise the importance of it for those that want to explore. Where do you feel you got the most benefit from your recovery? What exploration did you do that you were surprised
Yeah,
by?
oh gosh, it's such a huge question because I think for me it was really multi-layered, it was multifaceted, if you like. I think initially the education and the pain science really helped me to really believe and understand that I'm not damaged. You know, my body is strong. And, you know, all of these everyday activities are by no means causing me any damage. And I think just that initial, like, oh, blimey, that's great. You know, I am more strong and robust than I imagined. So I think that that's always really critical. Um, I think, as I said, building confidence up, you know, everyday movement is, and I did it slowly. So, you know, before I was happy literally to lay flat on my back. That was my comfort zone. And I moved forwards, and now I like running. And who'd ever have thought that? Anyone who knows me would laugh at that full stop. But for me, I wanted to give myself a gentle goal, a gentle challenge to do something that I had never done before. And actually, talking of mindset and shifting mindset, I had always said to myself, "Oh, you don't like running. You're not a runner. Like you're not. That's not you." Um, it is me. It's definitely me now. And I stick my trainers on, and I've got an old pair of trainers I can't throw out. I've got my toe is basically poking through. I'm a bit sentimental because I remember the first day I shoved them on. I thought, that's it, girl, off you go. Get yourself out there and just move. Just have a go. I'm not running marathons, but you know, if I want to do a longer run, I can. But I blow away the cobwebs. For me, I find it a very mindful activity now. It's my time, I get headspace, and I feel good and I'm moving my body. So just building up that confidence. So that's just to give people an example of, you know, where you can go with this journey. I know other people do amazing things and they're challenging their bodies in all kinds of crazy ways. So on holiday, I was dive bombing in a swimming pool with my son, and I loved it. It was amazing. We did it time and time again, and it was just happy and free and joyful. So I think experiencing your body in a joyful way is a massive part of overcoming this. And personally, looking at my personality traits and self-induced pressures and addressing that, I think really for me, that with emotional expression was the root cause to my
Mm,
pain.
mm,
Once I understood all of that and pieced that together, I think that's when not just my pain changed, and I'm going to say I'm really dramatic now, my life changed. I am still fundamentally me. And I think the difference is that I've learned to really accept me for who I am, but also realize that I can make very small changes to to feel much more empowered and in control of my life. Um, and that is just amazing. It's just such a great place to be in now compared to where I was previously.
mm. It's liberating, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's liberating, absolutely liberating. It,
yeah. It's I can't express it. It's a feeling of freedom.
yeah,
It's a feeling of
it
freedom.
doesn't
Yeah,
make us immune to emotional and physical distress that will inevitably come into our lives. It just means that there's less chance of those moments becoming like a loop, and deal with them, allow them. That's just a series of behaviours that are new. Do you,
absolutely.
do you,
Yeah,
do you recognize that voice that said, you're not a runner, you can't do that? Do you know whose voice that was or
that's
not?
really that's really interesting question, Drew. Actually, no one's ever asked me that before, and I've never really thought of it in that way. But I love it. I love that question. Um, well, I think it's my voice, and I think it's probably my inner child voice. And that's come from somewhere. That's a learned belief. That's, you know, that's deeply ingrained. Um, going to really have a good think about that. In fact, I'm probably going to do a bit of journaling around that. I love that question, and it's something that I mean, ultimately, it's my voice, and it's a deep rooted part of myself. Where it stems from, of course, I've done some work on that. But I'm going to have another think about that because I love it. I absolutely love it.
We all have those kind of voices, and some of them are
Yeah,
very,
we do.
they're survival based without any preempt, you know, jumping off a high bridge into a pool of water. Part of you said don't do it, but it's all the extra excuses that get overlaid that really can't have been us authentically. They have to have been learned. Now, mostly they're learned unconsciously. It's just some people have a very clear recognition when they hear voices like, oh, I know who said that to me.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not always your own. It's someone else's beliefs that's been imprinted upon you, and you've absorbed that. Yeah.
And it doesn't. I think people sometimes feel they have to go and find someone to point this on, but they don't. It can be a cultural voice.
Yeah.
Societal
Absolutely.
voice.
Yeah, I think there's so much of that. It can be a collective understanding and cultural, because you've just grown up with these beliefs, and they're so ingrained in you. They're literally like physically part of you. Yeah, it's a really interesting conversation, and we could probably have an hour's chat just about that. I think I do find I love that question. I really am going to have a good think about it. Quite often, you know, it's just us just having that perception, I think, of ourselves, which obviously has come from somewhere else. But the coaching work is so powerful, which is why that works with the Serpa work so well, because most people that I speak to, whether it's in a Serpa capacity or a coaching capacity, those blocks are there. You know, every which way they go, they're stopping themselves from doing something or believing that they can do something or achieve something. So that's just really interesting.
How did you evolve from that place of recovery? You're still a mum, and you were a mum, and are a mum, and you were doing a different profession with all the pain that you had. So the pain's dropped, career's dropped. You're still a mum for a while yet, and long might that last. However, how did you adopt this or evolve into this new role?
It's just almost like I think, again, it's a really slow process, and I think I'll be forever curious now and forever learning and evolving. But I think I learned that particularly with the self-induced pressures and the way that I was living my life, that actually, yeah, my lifestyle, I mean, I'm not for one moment with this statement about to say everyone needs to change their job, but for me, my career life work balance was a big factor, I think, in quite a lot of the stuff that was driving my anxiety and my pain. If you'd asked me at the time, Lindsay, are you an anxious person? I would be like, no, absolutely, categorically not. Do I feel particularly stressed? Not really, because I'm a coper. And I can do it, you know, give me more, I'll be fine. I'm not going to say no. I'm one of these people. Just, yeah, absolutely. Please everyone around me. Please everyone and say yes is basically who I was. And now that's different. And I think just circumstance for me anyway, the career that I had and the company I was working for was going to be closing. And in the background, I'd already started this interest. I just couldn't let it go. Once I'd found the Serpa work, you know, I did an introduction to counseling. That was kind of an interesting thing to me. I then looked at the life coaching and I thought, yeah, that sounds really interesting. So I just was curious and I was just seeing where it was taking me. And then I just thought, no, I really personally would love being through this experience and having lived it and embodied it. And I'm still on that journey now, of course, but I just can't let this go. If I only help one person in this universe overcome some of the things that they're facing at the moment, then I would be, well, firstly, just delighted for them, but feel like my life has more purpose. And that's what it boils down to.
So did you do, you obviously did the Serpa training.
Yeah.
And you're a coach.
Yeah. So I qualified as a life coach first, and we're working with some clients on life coaching. And then I did the Serpa training, and I'm a Serpa practitioner. So I just took it just to when I say the top level, I don't mean it like that, but I did the case studies. I work with 5 clients because I just felt like I really wanted to have a deep dive into that and experience that. And yeah, so now I'm now helping other people with their journey to recovery, and it's incredibly fulfilling. And people never cease to amaze me. You know, it's a really tough place to be, and I think anybody who takes this on, it's not always easy, but it is so fulfilling, and clients are doing it. You know, they're finding their way. They're taking the tools, they're using them, and they're coming out the other side all the better for it. And I just think I think they're amazing.
Yeah, it's a lovely kind of environment to share with people in quite a difficult starting point, and it doesn't always end in
Yes.
champagne, but it's just it's worthy place to be, isn't it? And have a go at doing your best, whether someone
Absolutely.
or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something, again, I just want to be really, obviously our role here is to support people, you know, move forwards out of chronic pain into a place which is much more comfortable. It's not linear. There are ups, there are downs. And as I said, because of our personality traits and the people that we are, you know, I would be lying if I said to anybody who embarks on working, you know, with any Serpa practitioner, you know, you could well have a relapse. Something could happen again. But it's having the skills and the tools, and not having that fear anymore about it, and understanding it, and your relationship with that pain just completely changes. So like you said earlier, you know, life is life. Stuff is going to smack us in the face that will floor us emotionally, but we now have, you know, more tools to be more resilient and to work our way through that, and to be much more accepting of how we feel whilst we're going through that. And I think that's the powerful part.
Well, it's a very powerful story that you outline. The starting point, the kind of that wilderness, the recovery that isn't linear, and that almost self-exploration and the toolkit you build. It's quite an inspirational story, really, and I'm sure people resonate at different points in their journey, really. Are you happy if when I share this, to put links to your website or to contact you for somebody who might want to work with you or ask you some questions or explore how you?
I mean, that's why I wanted to talk today, Drew. Like, sincerely, I think all of us who've been touched by this work, and there's at the moment there's a small few, but you know, the group is growing, you know, the army is growing, as it were. So there's more people now who are in this space, and rightly so, because I just want to shout it from the rooftops. I want to at least let people know that this is an option. You know, this will not be for everybody, but if it's right for you and this is an option to explore, what do you have to lose? So I would say, if anyone's got any questions, they have anything they would like to ask me, or just have a chat and just say, look, I'm stuck on this, or what can you suggest? Please don't ever think you can't approach, because that's what this genuinely is. I'm so hopefully it comes across. I'm so passionate about this as a solution for people, as a choice that they could potentially make or take. So yeah, please do. I would be very grateful, but also really happy to help.
How do you work currently?
And so at the moment, well, I have. I'm in Essex. I'm in sunny old Essex today. So I do. I have a little consultation space. So I do face to face if people are local, but of course, that's not always possible. But I also work online, and that's the beauty of technology now. I even have a lovely lady in America who I'm working with, and how incredible is that? That we can help people, you know, and they're thousands of miles away.
Yeah, it makes the world very small, doesn't it? And there's always someone for someone, isn't there? There's a voice there that you can help to use. Voice, I think, is out, but sometimes you do need a bit of help. So it's lovely to hear how you the service you provide anyway. And I'll I'll put all links to your email and your website so people can explore that in their own time and maybe approach you if they want.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really important to say that, you know, again, with coaching, finding the right person for you is paramount. You know, it sounds like it's such an obvious thing to say, but you know, somebody will listen to you, Drew, and they'll be like, I love the sound of that guy. He's my kind of guy. It's a vibe. It's a thing that it's almost it's not tangible. So likewise, I'm very grateful for this opportunity, and more than happy to point people in your direction too.
Thank you. I used to believe, well, now I look reflecting after 27 years of physio, for about 20 years, I feel I was a foot soldier for the old paradigm.
Yeah.
And when you say it's an army of people that are really going against the grain from a cultural perspective and biomedical perspective, I think there's a shift coming. I feel, but it's nice to be part of whatever it becomes, whether it changes within my lifetime. Okay, I'm a bit detached from, but it's nice to be in at this stage, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I think it's really exciting. And I think, you know, I just think that the fact that there's more of us growing now. We all have different backgrounds. You know, we've got GPs, haven't we, who practice this, osteopaths, physios, I mean, all sorts of, you know, psychotherapists. You know, the right combination of skills for that person, you know, we're out there, and I think you know, it's all really valid. And yeah, I can sense there's a change too. I can sense that things are, you know, there's more education, people are learning more and more and more about this. But if I can do my really small part, as I said, you know, for somebody else, and to just bring a little bit more, well, I called my business Vibrant because that's how I left. And I'm not vibrant 24/7, by the way. I am a real human being. But I just do really feel that it gives that extra element to your life that just, yeah, it touches you, and you just it just makes everyday living a little bit easier, I think.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for your time. Stay on the line. I'm just going to pause this recording, Lindsay.